The day of the divorce hearing arrived with a strange wind, one that carried dust from the far savannah and whispers from the old spirits. Even before sunrise, the sky hung heavy, as if the ancestors themselves waited to see what would unfold. In the center of Noro town stood the great circular hall where judgments were held. It was built of old red clay, polished smooth by many years of footsteps. Drums beat softly outside, calling people to gather, though nobody truly understood why the air felt different, darker, expectant. Inside the hall, firelight danced along the walls, making long shadows that moved like silent watchers. Elders from nearby villages sat in carved wooden seats. Women in bright cloths lined the back. Warriors guarded the doors, their spears glimmering like silver teeth. Everyone had come to witness the divorce of Chief Barasa and his wife, Mama Leela, a matter usually private, but this one had grown heavy with rumor. Some said a curse followed the couple. Some said a spirit had entered their home. Others whispered of a truth too dangerous to speak aloud. At the center sat the judge, Elder Kamau, a man whose beard carried more years than most people's lifetimes. His eyes were sharp, like those of a hawk watching far beyond the horizon. Chief Barasa stood tall, broad shoulders, a face hardened by pride. His red cloak brushed the ground as he walked. Beside him, Mama Leela sat quietly, her head lowered, her hands trembling. Her blue beads shook with every breath she took. But the strangest thing that morning was their daughter, Acheng. She was only 16 seasons old, yet she walked into the hall with the calmness of an aged spirit. A small leather pouch hung from her neck, glowing faintly like an ember trapped in darkness. People stared, whispering, "What is she carrying? Why has she come? Does she bring a message from the ancestors?" Acheng said nothing. She moved with purpose, her bare feet silent on the clay floor. When she reached the center, she bowed to Elder Kamau, then lifted her chin. Her eyes did not shake. They held a fire brighter than the torches on the wall. "I have something to show the court," she said, her voice steady. Her father frowned. "Acheng, this is not your place. Go home." But the girl did not move. Instead, she opened the pouch. Inside was a small wooden box carved with strange markings, markings older than the village itself, markings of the spirit of echoes, a mythical being said to reveal hidden truths through visions. The hall fell silent. Even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. Acheng placed the box on the ground. With trembling fingers, she touched its top. A soft hum filled the hall, the sound of bamboo flutes carried by distant anses. Tours. A glow rose from the carvings, spreading like moonlight on water. Then Acheng whispered, "Let the truth speak for itself." And as the box opened, every person in the courtroom leaned forward, because the spirits had arrived, and whatever they were about to reveal, would silence them all. When the ancient box opened, the firelight inside the judgment hall dimmed, as if the flames themselves bowed before something greater. A low hum rolled across the clay floor, rising like distant thunder. The elders exchanged anxious glances. Even Elder Kamau, who feared nothing, not man, not storm, not spirit, leaned forward with narrowed eyes. Acheng stood still in the center, her hands at her sides, her face calm. But her lips trembled softly, as though she held back a storm of her own. The glow from the box rose into the air, swirling into shapes. Shapes that were not solid yet not smoke, shapes that breathed, twisted, and shimmered. The people of Noro village pressed closer, their breaths caught in their throats. A cold whisper slithered through the hall. The truth, let it rise." Mama Leela clutched the edge of her cloth. Chief Barasa's jaw tightened. He took a step toward his daughter. "Acheng," he said through clenched teeth, "stop this nonsense. These childish games have no place here." But Acheng lifted her hand in calm defiance. The glow thickened, bright as moonlight on new snow, and a whisper of wind spiraled through the hall. The warriors guarding the doorway shifted uneasily. One of them muttered a short prayer under his breath. The spirit of echoes was not a thing to summon lightly. Elder Kamau tapped his staff. "Let the child continue," he said. "The ancestors do not appear without reason." Chief Barasa glared at him. "This is a divorce hearing, not a spirit ceremony." "Yes," the elder replied, "but sometimes, the spirits attend hearings too." A faint laugh swept through the crowd, nervous, unsure, half fearful. Acheng knelt beside the box. Her fingers brushed the carvings, tracing each line as if each stroke was a memory. A deeper hum rose from within the box, steady like a drumbeat heard from under the earth. And then, the images showed. Not like a modern screen. Not like shadows, not dreams. They appeared like living echoes, memories pulled from the air, shaped by something ancient, something unseen. The first echo flickered. A small hut under the moonlight, with its roof dancing in the wind. Ching's voice narrated, though her lips never moved. This is the night everything changed. In the echo, Mama Leela sat by the fire, grinding herbs. She looked tired, lonely, her eyes filled with unspoken storms. Outside, Chief Baras's voice boomed like a raging river. He shouted at hunters, threw spears into the grow. ND, paced like a man chased by anger he could not name. People in the hall murmured. Why is he angry? What troubles him so deeply? Is this the truth the girl brings? Cheng stared into the echo light. The truth has many roots, she said quietly. Another scene emerged. This time, Chief Barasa knelt beside a tree deep in the dark forest, speaking to someone no one in the hall could see. His voice was low, broken, desperate. Give me strength, he begged the shadows. My people must respect me. My house must obey me. I cannot let weakness show. A cold wave of fear ran through the hall. The elders leaned closer. Cheng spoke again. Father was not always strong. The weight of being chief, it pressed him. It twisted him. And what of it? Chief Barasa barked. Every leader carries burdens. Elder Kamau raised his hand sharply. Let the vision continue. The echo changed. A mask appeared. Part wood, part bone, carved with fangs and red markings. A spirit mask. Gasps filled the hall. The mask of a Duro, whispered one woman in the back. It belongs only to warriors who call spirits for power. Another elder shook his head. No man touches that mask without paying a price. In the vision, Chief Barasa placed the mask on his face. The echo revealed his body trembling. His hands shook. His breath turned ragged. A dark shadow rose around him, curling itself around his chest like a hungry serpent. And then he stood taller, broader, stronger, but something inside his eyes changed. The warmth disappeared. Only hard fire remained. Back in the hall, Mama Leela covered her mouth, trying not to weep. The villagers stared at Barasa, some with pity, some with fear. Chief Barasa's voice shook. I wore it only for strength. I wanted to be a good leader. Cheng looked at him with sadness. But the mask did not give strength. It took your heart. The glow shifted again. This time, the echo showed the chief at home, his voice raised, his footsteps heavy, his shadow long and sharp. Mama Leela spoke softly, trying to calm him, but he pushed her words aside like dust. Cheng, younger in the vision, hid behind the woven screen. Gasps spread through the hall like ripples on water. Barasa's eyes widened. Cheng, stop this. You twist the story. But Elder Kamau shook his head. It is the spirit of echoes that shows these memories, not the child. The echo deepened. The scene blurred into another night, rain falling hard, thunder rolling across the sky. Mama Leela stood outside the hut, tears mixing with rain. Barasa shouted inside, striking the wooden pillars until they cracked. Cheng stepped into the rain, placing her small hand on her mother's back. The vision faded. The hall was silent. Not a breath, not a whisper, not even the crack of the torches. Cheng rose slowly. I did not come to shame anyone, she said. I came because the truth must be seen before decisions are made. What we hide becomes poison. What we reveal becomes medicine. Her voice trembled, yet her eyes stayed strong. But the echoes were not done. The glow thickened again, swirling and turning, forming a new vision, one no one expected. A spirit appeared, tall, dark, its body shaped like smoke and moonlight. Its eyes shone like burning coals. The people gasped and bowed their heads. Some fell to their knees. The spirit of echoes spoke in a voice that vibrated through the clay walls. The child speaks truth, but truth has two sides. Mama Leela's head snapped up. Chief Barasa staggered backward. The spirit lifted its hand. The air thickened. Dust rose. Shadows stretched. Another echo formed, one that twisted the hall into deeper silence. A scene of Mama Leela alone in the forest, her hands holding herbs, her lips speaking old forbidden words, calling a spirit of protection. A spirit Mama Leela was not permitted to summon. The hall erupted into whispers. What is this? Did she call dark forces? Was she fighting back? Cheng froze, shocked. Even she didn't know this part. Mama Leela covered her face, trembling. Tears slipped through her fingers. The spirit thundered. She wished to protect her child from the chief's growing shadow. But protection called from fear can open other doors. The echo faded into darkness. Shivering silence filled the hall like cold fog. 2 truths, 2 wounds, 2 shadows. The spirit of echoes slowly dissolved into the air, leaving only the soft glow of the box. A Cheng stood between her parents. Between 2 storms. Between 2 hidden truths. Her voice, small yet steady, broke the silence. Now the court must decide what is broken and what can be healed. The hall breathed again, but tension hung thicker than smoke. Everyone waited for what would come next. Because the truth had spoken. But the consequences had only just begun. The judgment hall felt heavier than before. The torches flickered as though frightened, their flames shrinking into thin trembling tongues. Everyone stared at a Cheng, standing alone between her parents, between the 2 truths the spirit of echoes had just revealed. But something else, something unseen, lingered in the air. A presence, a warning, an ancestor's breath brushing the back of every neck. Elder Kamau slowly rose from his carved seat. The rings on his fingers clinked softly like distant bells. The spirits have shown us shadows, he said. Now, we must see the roots beneath them. Chief Barasa wiped sweat from his forehead, though the hall was cool. You saw the vision, he shouted. She, Leela, called Forbidden Spur. And you blame me? Mama Leela shook her head with despair. I did it only to protect our daughter. Your temper, your anger, your shadow was no longer yours. Barasa's face hardened, but his eyes wavered. His pride stood firm, yet his spirit trembled. A Cheng lifted her voice. There is more. Her words dropped into the hall like stones into deep water. Everyone turned to her. Chief Barasa stepped back. No more visions, a Cheng. Mama Leela whispered, please, what more pain must we show? But a Cheng shook her head. This is not only pain. This is about what truly happened in our home, beyond what even the spirits showed. Elder Kamau raised his staff. Continue, child. A Cheng closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. The leather pouch around her neck glowed softly, as though it recognized her intention. I learned something, she said. Something neither of them knew I saw. The hall leaned forward as one body. The box reopened. A thin swirl of white mist rose, shaping itself into a new echo. This echo was quieter, softer, like a memory hidden in the cracks between other memories. It showed a Cheng as a small girl, sitting by the river. She watched birds dance above the water while her father and mother argued behind the trees. Their voices were sharp. Their words cut the air like knives. A Cheng's younger self covered her ears. The echo shifted. Mama Leela knelt beside the same river later that evening, tears falling like rain into the water. She whispered prayers to the ancestors. But the ancestors did not answer. Not then, not yet. Then came another night. A storm roared through the village, shaking the huts and bending the tall savanna grass. Inside their home, Chief Barasa held his head in his hands, trembling. Sweat poured from his forehead. He looked lost, like a man trapped inside his own skin. A Cheng's voice narrated softly. He was changing. Not from anger alone, but from something deeper. Something that whispered to him after he wore the mask. In the echo, Chief Barasa stared into the darkness, hearing a faint voice call his name. A voice that sounded like his own, yet was not his. The villagers murmured. Elder Kamau frowned. The mask awakened a spirit of pride. A shadow spirit, one that feeds on fear. The echo shifted again. This time, it showed Mama Leela gathering herbs in the forest, not to summon dark forces, but to create a shield. A barrier, a protective charm. But something went wrong. The herb she picked, Nagurud, could protect only if taken with peace in the heart. If taken with fear, it could attract wandering spirits. Mama Leela had been afraid. Terribly afraid. And so, her charm did not only shield a Cheng, it also opened a small door. A small door that let the shadow grow stronger around B. Barasa. The hall murmured in shock. Mama Leela fell to her knees sobbing. I never meant harm. I only wanted my child safe. I was afraid he would hurt her. Hurt me. Hurt himself. Chief Barasa's eyes softened. His shoulders lowered. The anger in him flickered like a dying flame. The echo faded. But a Cheng was not done. There is something else, she said, her voice shaking for the first time. The box glowed brighter, too bright. The warriors shielded their eyes. A wind swept through the hall, lifting dust and cloth and whispers of old things. A new echo rose, not of the past, but of the beyond. A spirit figure appeared, tall, shimmering, made of gold and wind. It was an ancestor spirit, older than any living memory. a guide of families, a watcher of broken homes. The villagers gasped. Some knelt, others bowed until their foreheads touched the floor. The ancestor's voice rolled like thunder, gently touching the earth. This family stands at the edge of a cliff. Not because of hate, but because of wounds left untreated. Truth has been shown, but discovery is not yet complete. A Cheng swallowed hard. Show them, the spirit commanded. And the box obeyed. A new vision emerged, one that made the entire hall go still. It showed young A Cheng sneaking out one night after hearing her parents fight. She ran into the forest, tears on her cheeks. The moon was high, full and bright. Fireflies danced like tiny stars. She stopped at a clearing. There, she saw something no one expected. Chief Barasa, without the mask, kneeling beside the roots of a great baobab tree. He was crying, quietly, painfully. His shoulders shook. His hands clutched the soil as if he wished to bury his sorrow inside the earth. He whispered, "I do not want to be this man. I do not want to hurt them. Ancestors, take this shadow from me." The hall gasped. Barasa covered his face with both hands. He had not known anyone saw that moment. The echo continued. A Cheng stepped out of hiding and placed her small hand on her father's back. He looked up, startled, his eyes red. "Papa, don't cry." He hugged her tightly, too tightly, but not out of anger. Out of fear, out of a desperate wish to not be lost. The memory ended. Silence filled the hall again, but this silence was different. Not sharp, not cold. It was soft, heavy, like rain before it falls. A Cheng wiped her eyes. My father was fighting a spirit he could not see. My mother was fighting fear she could not silence. And I was trapped between both storms. Mama Leela sobbed into her hands. Chief Barasa looked at the ground. Elder Kamau leaned on his staff, his eyes full of sorrow and wisdom. "The truth," he said quietly, "is that both of you were hurting. And in trying to protect yourselves, you wounded each oath." A Cheng lifted her chin. "But this is not the last truth." The hall went still once more. "There is something the spirits showed me," she continued. "Not from the past or present, but from a future we may face if nothing changes." The box glowed again, slow, uncertain, trembling like a heartbeat. A faint echo formed. It showed a Cheng older, standing alone by a grave. Flowers wilted at her feet. She was crying. The sky above was gray. The village behind her was silent. 2 graves stood before her. One for her father, one for her mother. In that vision, they died apart. Never speaking, never healing, never forgiving. The hall trembled with sadness. Women wiped tears from their eyes. Warriors looked away in discomfort. Elders lowered their heads. Even Barasa and Leela stared in horror. A Cheng's voice cracked. "This is the future if this divorce ends in anger. If both of you follow the shadows instead of the ancestors." She stepped between her parents again. "I do not know what the court will decide," she said. "But today, the truth is this. The spirits showed your mistakes, but also your pain. Maybe the real path is not separation, but healing." Her words echoed through the hall like drumbeats. Elder Kamau exhaled slowly. "This," he said, "changes everything." The people murmured. The air thickened. The tension rose like a storm cloud building over the savannah. Something had shifted. Something big. Something that would change the ruling of the court, and the fate of the family. Because discovery had arrived, but conflict. The judgment hall felt as if it stood on the edge of 2 worlds, one seen, one unseen. The echoes had shown the past, the pain, the hidden roots that fed the growing darkness in the family. But as the murmurs of the villagers rose and fell like distant waves, everyone knew. The storms inside the hearts of Chief Barasa and Mama Leela were far from settled. A Cheng stood between them, breathing hard. The glow of the ancestors' box had faded into a soft pulse, like a tired heartbeat. She clutched it tightly, knowing the hardest part was still to come. Elder Kamau cleared his throat. "We have witnessed truth. Now, we must face what truth demands." The elder's voice echoed through the hall, deep and steady. But beneath his strength lay concern. Concern for the family that had become the center of the village's spirits and shadows. Chief Barasa stepped forward. His voice shook. "You have seen my weakness. The mask, the shadow, the anger. But I never wished to harm them." He gestured toward Mama Leela and A Cheng. "My anger was my own enemy, not my family." Mama Leela stood too, her beads trembling softly around her neck. "I feared you," she whispered. "But I should not have called the herb spirits. I should have. I sought help from the elders, not from fear." Her hands trembled like leaves touched by wind. I thought protecting Acheng meant hiding the truth from you. Barasa's eyes softened. Leela, but his voice cracked before he could finish. A tense quiet settled. The villagers leaned closer. Something heavy hovered in the air. Acheng swallowed. Mother, father, what you both did came from fear. But fear is a fire that grows when hidden. You both let the fire grow alone. Mama Leela turned away, tears streaking down her cheeks. Chief Barasa clenched his fists helplessly. It seemed as though the hall itself held its breath. Then, suddenly, a sharp crack echoed from outside. Everyone flinched. The wind outside howled in a strange, unnatural way. The sky beyond the doorway darkened, as though a shadow passed over the sun. Warriors at the entrance tightened their grips on their spears. An elder whispered, "The spirits are restless." A second whisper followed. "No, something else is here." Before anyone could respond, the flames in the torches shot upward, twisting unnaturally, bending as if pulled by invisible hands. A deep rumble trembled across the clay floor. The box in Acheng's hands glowed again, this time without her touching it. Elder Kamau's eyes widened. No, the echoes are not meant to speak again so soon. But the box disagreed. It burst open. A wave of cold air swept through the hall. Torches flickered. Dust rose. Women grabbed their children. Men pressed their backs against the walls. A dark shape emerged from the box. Not the ancestor spirit. Not a memory. Not an echo. A shadow. A spirit with no face, no form, only cold, wild darkness twisting like smoke. The villagers screamed and fell back. "It followed him," whispered one old woman. "No," murmured an elder. "It followed them all." Acheng gasped. "This is the shadow of pride. The spirit that grew from father's fear, and mother's fear too. The spirit that fed on their silence." Chief Barasa staggered backward. "I thought the mask held it." Mama Leela shook her head. "No, masks do not hold spirits. Spirits hold masks." The shadow twisted violently, filling the hall with bitter cold. Its voice scraped the air like iron dragged over stone. "I fed on your doubts, your wounds, your unspoken anger." Villagers fled to the corners. Warriors raised their spears but hesitated, unsure whether attacking a spirit would help or doom them. Acheng stared at the shadow, her heart pounding. "You were born from us." The spirit hissed. "I am what grows when truth sleeps. I am what rises when love fades. I am the child of your silence." Mama Leela trembled so hard she nearly fell. "What does it want?" Elder Kamau's face darkened. "It wants what all shadow spirits want, to to grow strong enough to take control." The shadow lunged toward Chief Barasa. Barasa roared and tried to shield himself, but the spirit passed through him like smoke. His knees buckled. His eyes rolled back. "Father!" Acheng screamed. He fell to the floor, hands gripping his chest. Sweat drenched him instantly. The shadow turned to Mama Leela next. "No." Acheng ran in front of her mother, holding out both hands as if she could stop a storm with her fingers. The shadow only laughed, a hollow, bone-chilling sound. Elder Kamau slammed his staff against the floor. The hall shook. "Spirit, you have no right in this sacred place." The shadow's form rippled, and its voice deepened. "Where truth bleeds, shadows feast." Acheng's fear turned into fire. "Enough," she shouted. She knelt beside the box again. "If the spirit came from our silence, then it must be defeated by truth, spoken with courage." The box pulsed. The shadow shrieked. Chief Barasa struggled to his feet, fighting the darkness swirling around him. I am not the monster you made me," he shouted. "I let the mask choose me. I let pride control me. But that ends today." Mama Leela wiped her tears. Her voice was soft but firm. "And I will not hide behind fear anymore. I will face the truth. I called forbidden herbs, not to hurt you, but because I didn't trust you." The shadow flinched. It hissed loudly, angrily. Acheng's voice rose. "Both of you must speak the truth fully, or this spirit will never leave." Chief Barasa closed his eyes. His voice broke. "I was afraid of being weak. Afraid of losing respect. Afraid of losing my family." Mama Leela stepped closer to him. "And I was afraid of your anger. Afraid it would break our home. Afraid it would break our daughter." The shadow shrank. Its form flickered. Its voice grew unsteady. Stop speaking." But Acheng's voice grew stronger. "Truth is light," she shouted. "Light burns shadows." Her parents clasped hands for the first time in many moons. Chief Barasa whispered, "I still love you." Mama Leela breathed, "I still love the man you were, and the man you can be." The villagers gasped. The shadow screamed. Its smoky form thinned, curling inward. A Chang held up the ancestor box, which glowed brighter than ever before. "Spirit," she said, voice trembling with authority she didn't know she had, "your time here is done." The shadow shrieked one last time, then exploded into a burst of cold wind. The torches roared back to life. Warmth returned to the hall. Chief Barasa sank to the floor, exhausted. Mama Leela fell beside him, weeping, but this time with relief, not sorrow. The villagers slowly rose from where they had crouched, whispering prayers of thanks. A Chang stepped back, shaking all over. Clutching the glowing box, Elder Kamau lifted his staff. His voice thundered. "This hearing is no longer about divorce. It is about healing, or destruction. And the final choice lies in the hearts of those who stood against the shadow." Everyone stared at Barasa and Leela. The air was heavy with waiting. The conflict was not over. But something had changed. A storm had been faced. Now came the fire. The sun died slowly behind Mount Kataru, spilling its last red breath across the sky. As darkness gathered, the villagers lit torches and circled the ancient baobab where Nyako had disappeared. The wind pushed hard from the east, carrying strange whistles that were not quite wind, not quite voices, but something in between. Even the bravest hunters shifted uneasily. Akonji stood at the center, gripping his staff so tightly his knuckles whitened. His heart thudded in his chest like the distant drums that began echoing from the sacred forest, drums no living drummer touched. He knew the time had come. He knew the ancestors were calling. And he feared they were angry. Elder Kwame stepped forward, raising a calabash filled with white ash. Tonight, he announced, the child's spirit must decide. Will she return to the living world? Or will she be lost in the realm of wandering voices? The villagers murmured. Fear crept into every breath. Niarai's jaw clenched. "I am her mother," she said. "If my daughter is between worlds, then take me there. I will not watch her fade like smoke." Kwame lifted his head slowly, studying her. "A mother's love can open doors," he said, "but it can also pull the spirits too strongly. If your heart trembles, they may follow it. Are you steady?" "I am," she replied without hesitation. Akonji swallowed. He knew she was strong, but he also knew the spirits could break even the strongest. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A gust of wind spiraled around the baobab, forming a twisting tunnel of dust and shimmering light. Villagers screamed and shielded their eyes. Through the whirlwind, a faint cry drifted. A child's cry. "Nyako," Nairai whispered, stepping forward before anyone could stop her. The wind surged, almost throwing her back, but she pressed on, fighting it like a lioness defending her cub. Akonji's heart tore. Watching her walk toward the storm felt like watching the moon being dragged from the sky. He wanted to run after her, grab her, hold her, but this path, he sensed, belonged to her alone. Kwame shook his rattle sharply. "Be strong, both of you. The spirits feed on emotion tonight." The whirlwind roared louder. Within its depths, figures moved, tall, thin shadows with elongated arms and glowing eyes. Ancestors, old ones, keepers of balance. Akonji fell to his knees. "Nairai," he cried, "do not go too far." But she did not turn. She walked deeper into the cyclone of spirits, her hair whipping wildly behind her, her feet steady as stone. The shadows surrounded her, examining her, their cold touch brushing her skin. Kwame raised both arms. "She is entering the threshold between breath and silence," he murmured. "Let no one interrupt." The villagers retreated in fear. Only Akonji stayed kneeling, trembling, his eyes fixed on her silhouette. He could barely breathe. Inside the storm, the shadows parted. A small figure appeared. Nyako. Her feet did not touch the ground. Her eyes were distant, unfocused, and a faint blue glow pulsed from her chest. Nairai broke into tears. "My child, my heart, come to me." Nyako blinked slowly, as though remembering the world she had been taken from. "Mother," she whispered, her voice carried by the wind. Yes, I'm here." Nairai stretched out her hands. But the spirits surged between them. A booming voice shook the air. "Not yet." The villagers dropped to the ground as the sky flashed white. Akonji felt the voice in his bones. Nairai stood her ground. "Why not? She is mine. She belongs with her family." The largest shadow stepped forward. Its glowing eyes fixed on Nairai, then on the blue light in Nyako's chest. "The child carries a mark," it rumbled. "A mark born from decisions made by those who brought her into the world." Akonji's breath froze. "A mark?" he whispered. What mark? The spirit pointed towards him. The entire village turned. Nyarai's chest tightened. Leave him out of this, she warned. This is about my daughter. But the spirit shook its head. The choices of one branch poisoned the whole tree. Akonji stumbled backward as memories flashed, arguments, secrets, moments he wished he could erase. His guilt rose like smoke from a dying fire. He fell forward, forehead pressed to the earth. If it is my fault, he choked, take anything from me, but return the child to her mother. The spirits murmured among themselves, their voices echoing like distant thunder. Nyako reached toward Nyarai. Mama, I'm scared. That broke something in her. Nyarai stepped forward, shoving past the shadows. No spirit, no voice, no ancestor will take her from me. If a price must be paid, then take it from me, not her. Her voice cracked the air like lightning. The spirits stilled. The wind died suddenly. A strange hush fell, deep, heavy, and sacred. The largest spirit lowered its head toward her. A mother's vow is the oldest magic. Slowly, its skeletal hand reached into the glowing mark in Nyako's chest, and pulled out a strand of blue light, thin and trembling. Nyako gasped, falling into her mother's arms, crying wildly. Akonji leapt forward, catching them both and holding them HTLY. For a moment, the three were bound together in a single heartbeat. Then the spirit lifted the glowing strand toward the sky. The clouds parted as if sliced open. A beam of moonlight fell directly upon them. The ancestors spoke together. The family that stands united shall not be broken by shadows. A sudden blast of warmth washed over the entire clearing. Torches blazed brighter. The dust storm dissolved. The dark figures faded like evaporating mist. The night became still again. When the light dimmed, Nyako was clinging to her parents, trembling but alive. Nyarai kissed her again and again. My baby, my baby. Akonji held his daughter with shaking arms, tears running freely down his face. Forgive me, he whispered. Forgive everything. Kwame approached them slowly, staff in hand. The spirits have chosen mercy. But remember this night, all of you. For such mercy comes once in a lifetime. The villagers gathered around, touching Nyarai's shoulders, lifting Nyako's small hands, murmuring prayers of gratitude. But Akonji could not stop staring at the place where the spirit had pointed at him. At his heart, at his guilt, and as the celebrations began around them, drums beating softly, songs rising to the stars, he knew the final part of the journey had not yet come. The spirits had returned the child, but they had also left a question in the air. The first light of dawn crept across the savannah like a shy visitor, brushing the grass with gold. Birds called from distant acacias, their songs soft and cautious, as though unsure if the night's chaos had truly passed. But in the village of Kadunza, no one slept. Children huddled near fires, whispering about the spirits they had seen twisting through the sky. Elders sat silently, stirring pots of morning porridge without truly tasting or smelling anything. Hunters sharpened spears they had not used, their hands reflexively repeating motions meant to steady the heart. And at the center of it all, under the giant baobab, Akonji sat with Nyarai and Nyako. Nyako slept in her mother's lap, her breath soft and even, her face calm, at last free of the strange glow that had clung to her like moonfire. Nyarai leaned back against the tree trunk, eyes half closed, exhaustion clinging to her bones. But it was Akonji whose spirit felt the heaviest. He stared at the ground, at the circle where the spirits had stood, where the glowing thread had been torn from his daughter's heart. He could still feel the echo of their accusation. The choices of one branch poisoned the whole tree. He knew exactly what they meant. He had known for years. And now the weight of it pressed on his chest like a stone. Kwame approached quietly, leaning heavily on his staff. The girl sleeps well, he said. This is a blessing. Akonji nodded but said nothing. Kwame lowered himself to the ground with the slow caution of age. Your silence is louder than a drum this morning. Akonji swallowed. Elder, the spirits pointed at me. They said the mark came from my choices. They were right. Kwame looked at him without judgment. Then speak, so your heart may breathe again. Akonji lifted his head slowly. Before Nyako was born, I wronged Nyarai. Nyarai opened her eyes. She listened quietly. I took pride in being the strongest hunter, the one who always brought home more than others. But pride grows teeth. I began spending more nights away than I should have. I kept secrets, long journeys, unexplained absences, places I should not have gone. He clenched his fists. And one night, during a festival in a distant village, I made a choice that dishonored my marriage. Nyarai's eyes glistened. I confessed to no one, he continued, voice trembling. I thought the secret would die inside me. But secrets do not die. They breed shadows. Kwame nodded slowly. The ancestors do not care for perfection. But they demand truth. A lie kept in the heart becomes a curse that touches every soul who loves the liar. Akanji bowed his head. I think the spirits saw my guilt, and Nyako carried the burden I refused to face. He looked at Nyarai with eyes full of shame. I am sorry. The wind carried his words softly, lifting them into the morning air. For a long moment, Nyarai said nothing. Her fingers brushed through Nyako's hair as she stared at Akanji. You hurt me, she said finally, quiet but firm. Deeply. Akanji closed his eyes. I know. You broke trust, not only between us, but within yourself. And that pain grew inside this family like a vine that no one noticed until it strangled the joy from our home. Akanji nodded, tears rising. But, she continued, he looked up. Last night, you were ready to give your life for our daughter. You stood before the spirits with a heart bare as the savannah. That tells me your soul has changed. She reached out her free hand. Akanji hesitated, then took it, gripping it as though it were the edge of a cliff he had been slipping from for years. I forgive you, she whispered. His breath broke. He bowed his forehead to the back of her hand. Kwame smiled faintly. Forgiveness is the medicine that heals where no herb can reach. Nyako stirred, blinking awake. Her eyes fluttered open, bright, warm, full of the innocence returned to her. Mama, she whispered. Nyarai kissed her forehead. I'm here, my heart. Nyako turned to her father. Papa, I dreamed of shadows, and then light. The light felt like your hands. Akanji pulled her gently into his arms. I will never let shadows take you again. As the village gather. Kwame raised both hands for silence. People of Kadunza, he called, voice strong. We witnessed a night that will be spoken of for generations. But let us not only remember the fear. Let us remember the lesson. He pointed at the rising sun. Spirits do not punish to destroy. They punish to correct. And they reward when the heart chooses truth. He turned to the family. Akanji, Nyarai, and Nyako have crossed a river of shadows and returned with light. Let their journey teach us all. Villagers nodded, murmuring in agreement. Drummers began to beat soft rhythms, a welcoming of dawn, of healing, of renewal. Women brought calabashes of warm milk. Hunters offered carved charms for protection. Children circled Nyako, marveling that she was alive, laughing again, touching her hands as if confirming she was real. Akanji watched his family with a heart lighter than it had been in years. But Kwame wasn't done. He lifted his staff and spoke one final truth. When a family hides pain, the ancestors hear the silence louder than words. But when a family faces truth together, even the spirits bow to their unity. The villagers nodded deeply. Akanji stepped forward, placing his hand over his chest. From today, I will walk in truth. Not because the spirits demand it, but because my family deserves it. Nyarai took his hand. Nyako reached for both of them. The three stood together, framed by the new sun, no longer fractured pieces, but a single woven bond reborn from fire and shadow. And as the light spread across the land, warming every rooftop and every heart in the village, the moral of their journey became clear.